Danny Cole stepped off the transport shuttle and felt like he could float away. The trade hub had artificial gravity, but it was nothing compared to Earth. His body felt light. His muscles, built over 28 years of living under Earth's heavy pull, suddenly had almost nothing to push against. He took a deep breath and followed the line of new workers into the processing center. Aliens of every shape and size moved around him. Some were tall and thin with blue skin. Others were short and covered in thick fur. A few had multiple arms or legs. Danny was the only human in the group. An administrator stood at the front of the room. He was nearly 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and large black eyes. His name tag said Counselor. "Welcome to the Trade Hub," said. His voice was cold and formal. "You have been selected to work here based on your species' capabilities. You will be assigned to positions that match your biological limitations." Danny noticed that looked directly at him when he said the word limitations. The orientation lasted 2 hours, explained the rules of the station, the work schedules, and the payment system. He also explained where each species would be working. The handled administration and management. A warrior species handled security, though with their 4 arms worked in technical repair. Humans, explained, would work in basic cargo handling. "Your species evolved on a high-gravity world," said. "This has made your bodies dense but slow. Your minds developed under harsh conditions, which limited your intellectual growth. Cargo work is the most suitable position for your kind." Danny said nothing. He had heard this before. Everyone in the galaxy seemed to think that Earth's gravity had made humans stupid and weak. They called Earth a punishment world. They said humans were barely more than animals who had somehow stumbled into space travel. After the orientation, Danny was taken to the cargo bay on the lower deck. The room was massive, filled with metal containers stacked 3 stories high. Machines moved some of the containers, but most of the work was done by hand. A worker walked up to Danny. He had 4 arms, gray skin, and a permanent sneer on his face. His name was. "So you are the new human," said. "I heard your world is so heavy that you have to crawl on your bellies like worms." Danny kept his face calm. "We walk upright, actually." Laughed. "Sure you do. Come on, little human. I will show you what you need to do." The work was simple. Danny had to move cargo containers from one area to another. The containers were designed to be heavy enough to challenge the workers, which meant they weighed about 200 pounds each. Danny picked up his first container and almost laughed. On Earth, this would have been nothing. Here, in the low gravity of the station, it felt like picking up a pillow. He carried the container across the bay and set it down gently, watched him with narrow eyes. "Not bad for a human," said, "but do not get too confident. The real work comes later." Danny nodded and went back for another container. The shift lasted 10 hours. By the end, Danny was not even tired. His muscles had not been challenged at all. The other workers were sweating and breathing hard, but Danny felt like he had barely moved. He found the human quarters on Deck 7. The room was small, with 2 beds and a tiny bathroom. A woman was already inside, sitting on one of the beds. She had brown hair and tired eyes. "You must be the new guy," she said. "I am Kate. I have been here for 6 months." Danny shook her hand. "Danny Cole, nice to meet you." Kate studied his face. "How was your first day?" "Easy," Danny said. "Too easy. The work is nothing." Kate nodded slowly. "I know, but you need to be careful about that." "What do you mean?" Kate stood up and closed the door. She spoke in a low voice. "The aliens think we are weak because we come from a heavy world. They think Earth's gravity crushed us and made us inferior. But the truth is the opposite. Earth's gravity made us strong, stronger than almost any species in the galaxy." Danny frowned. "So why do we let them treat us like this?" "Because if they knew the truth, they would fear us," Kate said. "And fear leads to violence. The galaxy is not ready to know what humans can really do, so we keep our heads down, We do our work. We stay quiet. Danny sat down on his bed. He did not like this. He had spent his whole life being told that humans were inferior. He had hoped that coming to space would be different, but it was the same everywhere. "I understand," he said finally. "I will be careful." Kate gave him a small smile. "Good, now get some sleep. Tomorrow is another long day." Danny lay down and stared at the ceiling. The metal was thin and cheap. He could probably punch a hole through it if he wanted to, but he would not. He would follow Kate's advice. He would stay quiet and do his work. But deep inside, something was burning, a small flame of anger that refused to go out. The next morning, Danny returned to the cargo bay, and the other workers were already there, laughing and joking. They stopped when Danny walked in. "Look, the human is back," said. "I thought maybe your weak body had broken down overnight." Danny ignored him and started working. The containers were just as light as before. He moved them quickly and efficiently, never stopping to rest. By midday, he had moved twice as many containers as any other worker. Noticed this and his expression changed. The sneer was gone. In its place was something that looked like suspicion. During the lunch break, Danny sat alone in the corner of the break room. He ate the bland food that the station provided and tried not to think about Earth. He missed real food, real air, real gravity. A shadow fell over his table. He looked up and saw standing there with two other workers. "You work fast for a human," said. "Too fast. How do you do it?" Danny shrugged. "I just do my job." Leaned closer. "I am watching you, human. If you are hiding something, I will find out." Danny met his eyes without flinching. "There is nothing to find." Stared at him for a long moment, then walked away. Danny went back to his food, but his appetite was gone. He had made a mistake. He had worked too hard, moved too fast. He had drawn attention to himself. When he returned to the cargo bay after lunch, he tried to slow down, but it was hard. His body wanted to move. His muscles wanted to work. Holding back felt wrong. At the end of the shift, something happened. Danny was walking past a row of containers when he noticed one that was marked for a powered loader. It was much larger than the others, weighing at least 1,000 pounds. Without thinking, he grabbed the edge of the container and lifted it to check the label underneath. The container rose easily in his hands. He heard a gasp behind him. He turned and saw several other workers staring at him with wide eyes. Danny set the container down quickly. "Sorry, I thought it was something else." He walked away without looking back, but he could feel their eyes on him. He could hear them whispering. The secret was starting to crack. Word spread quickly on the station. By the next morning, everyone was talking about the human who had lifted a loader container with his bare hands. Most of them did not believe it. They said the gravity plating must have failed. They said the container must have been empty. They said humans could not possibly be that strong. But believed it. He had seen it with his own eyes. Danny tried to go about his day like nothing had happened. He worked his shift in the cargo bay, moving containers at a normal pace. He kept his head down and avoided eye contact with the other workers, but he could feel them watching him, whispering about him. When he returned to his quarters that evening, Kate was waiting for him. Her face was serious. "I heard what happened," she said. Danny sat down heavily on his bed. "It was an accident. I was not thinking." "That is the problem," Kate said. "You cannot afford to stop thinking, not here, not ever." Danny rubbed his face with his hands. "I know, I am sorry." Kate sat down next to him. Her voice softened. "I understand how hard this is, I really do. When I first got here, I wanted to show them what humans could do. I wanted to prove them wrong, but that is not how this works. If they learn the truth about us, everything changes, and not for the better." Danny looked at her. "How long do we have to hide?" "I do not know," Kate admitted. "Maybe forever. Maybe until humanity has enough power in the galaxy to protect itself. But for now, we stay quiet." Danny nodded slowly. He did not like it, but he understood. The next few days passed without incident. Danny worked his shifts and kept to himself. The whispers about him slowly faded. People began to forget. Then they arrived. They were a warrior species from the far side of the galaxy. They were tall and broad, with thick muscles and dark green skin. They were known throughout the galaxy as the strongest species alive. Their soldiers had conquered dozens of worlds. Their commanders were feared everywhere. A warship docked at the station on a Thursday morning. Commander led a group of 20 soldiers onto the main plaza. He was the largest Danny had ever seen, standing nearly 8 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. The administrator, counselor, greeted them with deep bows and nervous smiles. Everyone on the station seemed afraid of them. Even the usually arrogant workers kept their distance. That evening, they held a demonstration in the recreation hall. They wanted to show the other species what true strength looked like. Danny did not want to go, but Kate insisted. "It would look strange if we stayed away," she said. "Just blend in and do not draw attention." The recreation hall was packed. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of species filled the seats. Danny and Kate found a spot near the back, away from the main crowd. Commander stood in the center of the hall. His soldiers stood behind him in a perfect line. They were all massive, all powerful, all terrifying. "We are," announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "We are the supreme physical species in this galaxy. No one can match our strength. No one can challenge our power." He picked up a thick metal bar from a table nearby. The bar was solid steel, 3 inches thick. Held it in his hands and bent it in half like it was made of soft clay. The crowd gasped and cheered. One by one, the soldiers showed off their abilities. They crushed metal balls with their bare hands. They lifted weights that would have required machines for any other species. They broke stone blocks with their fists. The aliens in the crowd cheered louder with each display. Danny watched in silence. They were strong. There was no doubt about that. But Danny knew something that no one else in the room seemed to know. Humans were stronger. After the demonstrations, walked through the crowd. He stopped to accept praise from the other species. His ego seemed to grow with every compliment. Then his eyes found Danny. The commander walked toward the back of the hall where Danny and Kate were sitting. The crowd parted to let him through. Danny felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. "A human," said. He looked Danny up and down with obvious disgust. "I have heard about your species. You come from a heavy world, yes. A world that crushed your bodies and stunted your minds." Danny said nothing. Laughed. "I see you have nothing to say. That is wise. What could a creature like you possibly say to a—" Someone in the crowd shouted something. Danny recognized the voice. It was. "Make the human try the strength test," called out. "Let us see what the heavy world produces." Laughter rippled through the hall. Grinned and picked up one of the heavy metal spheres from the demonstration table. He dropped it on the floor in front of Danny. It hit the ground with a loud thud. "Go ahead," human said. "Show us your strength, pick it up." Danny looked at the sphere. It probably weighed 300 pounds. On Earth, that would have been heavy but manageable. Here, in the low gravity of the station, it would feel like nothing. He looked at Kate. She was shaking her head slightly, her eyes pleading with him to stay quiet. Danny understood. He should walk away. He should swallow his pride and keep the secret safe. That was the smart thing to do. But then spoke again. "Your species is pathetic," they said. "You are gravity-crushed insects. You can barely stand upright. I am surprised you have the intelligence to even understand my words." Something inside Danny snapped. He thought about every insult he had ever received. Every time someone had called him weak. Every time someone had looked at him with pity or disgust. Every time he had been told that humans were inferior. He was tired of hiding. He was tired of pretending to be less than he was. Danny stood up slowly. The hall went quiet. Everyone was watching. He did not pick up the metal sphere. Instead, he stepped over it and walked toward until they were face to face. The towered over him, but Danny did not look away. "Let me ask you something," Danny said. His voice was calm and steady. "How high can jump?" Frowned, he had not expected this question. "Why does that matter?" "Humor me," Danny said. Shrugged, he crouched down and leaped into the air. His body rose about 2 feet off the ground before landing again. For his size and weight, it was impressive. The crowd murmured with approval. "Satisfied?" asked with a smirk. Danny nodded slowly. "Yes, thank you." Then he crouched down. He felt his muscles tense, all that strength built by 28 years of Earth's crushing gravity. He felt the power in his legs, the coiled energy waiting to be released. And he jumped. His body shot upward like a rocket. The ceiling was 15 feet above the floor. Danny hit it head first. The metal cracked. Fragments rained down on the stunned crowd below. Danny landed cleanly on his feet, rubbing his head with a small wince. A bruise was already forming, but he did not care. The hall was completely silent. Every alien stared at him with wide eyes. Smirk was gone. In its place was something Danny had never seen on a face before. Fear. Danny walked toward the exit. He paused at the door and spoke without turning around. "Earth's gravity is 2.7 times stronger than this station," he said. "We are not crushed by our world. We are built by it." He pushed through the door and walked out into the corridor. Behind him, the silence continued. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a young woman named Senna whispered to herself. What else can they do? Danny walked through the empty corridors of the station without knowing where he was going. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He had just revealed the truth about humans to hundreds of aliens. There was no taking it back. He found a quiet observation deck on the upper level and sat down near the window. Stars stretched out in every direction. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was home. Kate found him an hour later. She sat down next to him without speaking. They watched the stars together in silence. Finally, Kate said, "That was either the bravest or the thing I have ever seen." Danny let out a weak laugh. "Probably both." "They are afraid of you now," Kate said. "I saw their faces. They had no idea what humans were capable of." Danny nodded. "I could not take it anymore. The insults, the mockery, being treated like an animal. I just snapped." Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I understand. I really do. But now we have to deal with the consequences." She was right. Danny knew she was right, but he did not regret what he had done. For the first time since arriving at the station, he felt like himself. He felt like a human. The next morning, everything was different. When Danny walked through the corridors, aliens moved out of his way. They looked at him with fear and curiosity. No one mocked him. No one sneered. They just stared. He arrived at the cargo bay for his shift, but the supervisor stopped him at the door. "You are wanted in the command center," the supervisor said. His voice was nervous. "The High Arbiter wants to see you." Danny's stomach tightened. The High Arbiter was the leader of the entire station. This was serious. He made his way to the command center on Deck 1. 2 guards escorted him inside. The room was large and circular, with screens covering every wall. A long table sat in the middle, surrounded by representatives from different species. At the head of the table sat High Arbiter. He was old with wrinkled blue skin and tired eyes. He looked at Danny with an expression that was hard to read. Danny Cole said, "Please sit down." Danny took a seat at the far end of the table. He noticed that Commander was there too, standing against the wall with his arms crossed. That was glaring at him with pure hatred. "We have been discussing what happened last night," said. "Your display has raised many questions about your species." "I understand," Danny said. "I am not sure you do," replied. "You see, we believed humans were a weak and limited species. We assigned your people to labor work because we thought that was all you were capable of. But now we are learning that we may have been wrong. Stepped forward. Wrong is an understatement. This human cracked a metal ceiling with his head. If they can do that, what else can they do? They could be a threat to the entire galaxy. Danny kept his voice calm. We are not a threat. We have never attacked anyone. Not yet, said. But how long until your species decides to use your strength against us? How long until humans become conquerors? Raised a hand to silence the Commander, please. We are here to gather information, not to make accusations. He turned back to Danny. We have decided to contact Earth directly. We want to speak with your leaders and learn more about your species. Until then, you will remain on the station under observation. Danny nodded. There was nothing else he could do. The communication with Earth took several hours to arrange. The distance was vast, and the signals had to bounce through multiple relay stations. But eventually, a face appeared on the main screen. Admiral Gregor Hayes was a stern man in his 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore the uniform of the Earth Defense Force. He did not look surprised to be receiving this call. High Arbiter, Hayes said. I was wondering when you would contact us. Leaned forward. You know why we are calling. I can guess, Hayes replied. One of our people did something impressive and now you are worried. We are concerned, corrected him. We have learned that humans may be significantly stronger than we believed. We need to understand the extent of your species' capabilities. Hayes nodded slowly. Very well, I will tell you what you want to know. He paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he began. Earth's gravity is 2.7 times the standard galactic average. Our atmosphere is thick and our planet is large. Every human is born into a world that tries to crush them from the moment they take their first breath. But instead of being crushed, we adapt. We grow stronger. He continued. The average human can run for hours without stopping. We call it persistence hunting. Our ancestors chased prey across entire continents until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. We are not the fastest species, but we are among the most enduring. Scoffed, endurance is not strength. Hayes looked at him with cold eyes. Let me finish. Humans can survive injuries that would kill most species. We can lose limbs and continue fighting. We can suffer wounds that should be fatal and recover completely. Our bodies heal faster than you would believe. The room was silent. Danny watched the faces around the table. The aliens were listening with growing unease. We can adapt to almost any environment, Hayes continued. Extreme heat, extreme cold, high altitudes, low oxygen. We have lived in deserts, jungles, mountains, and ice fields. There is almost nowhere on Earth where humans cannot survive. Spoke carefully. These abilities make your species very powerful. Yes, Hayes agreed. They do, but here is what you need to understand. Humans do not want war. We have had enough war among ourselves to last 1,000 lifetimes. We came to space looking for peace, for trade, for cooperation. We want to be your partners, not your enemies. He leaned closer to the screen. But we will not accept being treated as inferior. We will not accept being mocked and dismissed. We are willing to work with any species that treats us with respect. But if someone threatens us, we will defend ourselves. And now you know what that means. The message was clear. Humanity was not asking for a fight, but if a fight came, humanity would win. Ended the communication shortly after. The council members sat in stunned silence. No one knew what to say. Finally spoke. We cannot allow this. Humans must be contained before they become too powerful. Shook his head. We are not going to start a war, Commander. The Admiral was clear. Humans want peace. We should give them a chance. And if they are lying, demanded. Then we will deal with it when the time comes, said. But I will not condemn an entire species based on fear. He looked at Danny. You may return to your quarters. This council will discuss the matter further and inform you of our decision." Danny stood and walked toward the door. Before he left, he stopped and looked back at the council. "For what it is worth," he said, "I did not jump to scare you. I jumped because I was tired of being treated like less than I am. All we want is to be seen as equals." He walked out before anyone could respond. That night Danny sat in his quarters with Kate. They did not talk much. There was too much uncertainty. The council could decide anything. They could restrict humans. They could send them away. They could even try to attack Earth. Then Danny's personal terminal beeped. He had a new message. He opened it and felt his blood run cold. The message was from Commander. It contained only 5 words. "This is not over, human." Danny showed the message to Kate. She read it 3 times before speaking. "Is dangerous," she said. "He sees humans as a threat to dominance. He will not let this go." Danny nodded. "What should I do?" "Be careful," Kate said. "Watch your back. Do not go anywhere alone if you can help it." Over the next few days, Danny followed her advice. He stayed close to Kate and avoided isolated areas of the station. He kept his eyes open for any sign of trouble. The council had not announced their decision yet. Rumors spread through the station like fire. Some said humans would be promoted to higher positions. Others said they would be locked up or sent back to Earth. No one knew the truth. Meanwhile, the station's attitude toward humans slowly began to change. Danny noticed that some aliens were treating him differently, not with mockery or fear, but with something that looked like respect. Senna, the young woman from the recreation hall, approached him one day in the cafeteria. She was thin and nervous, with bright blue eyes that sparkled with curiosity. "May I sit with you?" she asked. Danny nodded. "Of course." Senna sat down across from him. She seemed to be searching for the right words. "I wanted to thank you," she finally said, "for what you did in the recreation hall." Danny was surprised. "Thank me. Most people seem angry or scared." "Not everyone," Senna said. "Some of us are glad. They have bullied the other species for centuries. They think their strength gives them the right to push everyone around. But you showed them that they are not as special as they think." Danny smiled slightly. "I was not trying to make a statement. I was just tired of being insulted." "I know," Senna said, "but it was still important. You showed us that the galaxy is bigger than we thought, that there are species out there we do not understand. It was humbling, and we needed to be humbled." They talked for a while longer. Senna asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about what life was like under heavy gravity. Danny answered as honestly as he could. It felt good to have a real conversation with an alien for the first time. When they finished eating, Senna stood to leave, but she paused before walking away. "Be careful," she said quietly. "Is planning something. I do not know what, but I have heard whispers. He is not the type to accept defeat." Danny thanked her for the warning. He already knew that was dangerous, but hearing it from Senna made it feel more real. 3 days later, Danny was working in the cargo bay when he noticed something strange, and the other workers were keeping their distance from him. They usually stayed nearby to watch and mock, but today they were all working on the far side of the bay. Danny frowned. Something was wrong. He continued his work, moving containers from one section to another. The bay was quieter than usual. Most of the workers seemed to have disappeared. Danny was almost alone. Then he heard it, a deep groaning sound from above. He looked up and saw one of the massive storage racks beginning to tilt. It was loaded with heavy containers, probably 20,000 pounds in total, and it was falling directly toward him. Danny's body moved on instinct. He dove forward, trying to get out of the way, but the rack was too wide. The containers were coming down on top of him. He had no choice. Danny planted his feet and raised his arms. The first container slammed into his hands. The impact drove him down to one knee. More containers followed, crashing onto the first one and adding to the weight. Danny's muscles screamed. This was not like lifting cargo in low gravity. This was real weight, real force, all pressing down on his shoulders and arms. He gritted his teeth and pushed upward. His legs shook. His back felt like it was going to break, but he held on. Around him, alarms began to sound. He could hear shouts and running footsteps, but he could not move. If he let go, the containers would crush him completely. Seconds passed. Each one felt like an hour. Danny's vision started to blur. He was reaching his limit. Then he heard Kate's voice. "Hold on, Danny, help is coming." Emergency crews arrived with heavy equipment. They worked quickly, securing the containers and attaching cables to lift them away. Slowly, the weight began to ease. When the last container was finally removed, Danny collapsed to the floor. He lay there breathing hard, every muscle in his body burning with pain, but he was alive. Kate knelt beside him. "You did it. You held up the whole thing." Danny laughed weakly. That was not fun. Medical teams arrived and took Danny to the station's hospital. The doctors were amazed. He had held up nearly 15,000 pounds of weight with nothing but his body. By all rights, he should have been crushed. "Your species is remarkable," one of the doctors said. "Your muscles, your bones, your entire structure. It is built for conditions we cannot imagine." Danny just nodded. He was too tired to talk. While he was recovering, Kate and Senna investigated the accident. They found evidence that the storage rack had been sabotaged. The support beams had been cut almost all the way through. It was designed to collapse when enough weight was placed on it. Security footage confirmed their suspicions. The footage showed Commander entering the cargo bay late at night, carrying cutting tools. He had set the trap himself. Within hours was arrested. His own soldiers were shocked. They had not known what their commander was planning. Some of them even seemed relieved that he had been stopped. High Arbiter came to visit Danny in the hospital. The old looked troubled but also impressed. "I must apologize," said. "We failed to protect you, acted alone, but we should have seen the danger." Danny shook his head. "It was not your fault, was determined to hurt me. Nothing would have stopped him." Sat down in a chair beside the bed. He was quiet for a long moment. "When you first arrived here, I thought humans were simple creatures," he admitted. "I believed what everyone else believed, that your heavy world had made you slow and stupid, that you were barely worth noticing." He paused. "I was wrong. Your species is not weak. You are not inferior. In fact, you may be one of the most capable species we have ever encountered." Danny met his eyes. "All we ever wanted was a chance to prove that." Nodded slowly. "And you have, more than once. The Council has made its decision. From now on, humans will be treated as full members of the galactic community. You will have access to the same jobs, the same opportunities, the same respect as any other species." Danny felt something loosen in his chest. Relief maybe, or hope. "Thank you," he said. Stood to leave. "No, thank you, Danny Cole. You have taught us something important. Never judge a species by where they come from. Judge them by what they can do." He walked out of the room, leaving Danny alone with his thoughts. Kate came by later that evening. She sat on the edge of his bed and smiled. "We did it," she said. "Humans finally got the recognition we deserve." Danny smiled back. It only took cracking a ceiling and holding up a mountain of cargo. Kate laughed. "Well, nobody said it would be easy." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars through the hospital window. For the first time since leaving Earth, Danny felt like he belonged somewhere. But he knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was a big place, full of species who still did not understand humanity. There would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight, more minds to change. And Danny was ready for all of them. 2 weeks passed since arrest. Danny recovered quickly, much faster than the doctors expected. They said his healing abilities were incredible. Danny just shrugged and said it was normal for humans. The station felt different now. The tension that had filled the air since Danny's jump was slowly fading. Aliens no longer stared at him with fear or suspicion. Instead, they nodded when he passed. Some even smiled. Was sent back to face judgment. The government was embarrassed by his actions. They sent official apologies to both the and to Earth. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. Danny returned to work in the cargo bay, but not as a simple laborer. High Arbiter had assigned him to a new position as shift supervisor. He was now in charge of a team of workers from multiple species. At first, some of the workers resented taking orders from a human, but Danny treated everyone fairly and worked alongside them instead of just giving commands. Slowly, he earned their respect. Was the hardest to win over. That had been one of Danny's biggest critics. He had called humans weak and stupid. He had laughed at every insult thrown Danny's way. But after the cargo bay incident, something changed in. He had seen Danny hold up a mountain of containers. He had watched a human do something that no could ever dream of doing. One day during a break, walked up to Danny. His expression was uncomfortable, like he was about to swallow something bitter. "I need to say something," said. Danny looked at him and waited. "I was wrong about your species," continued. "I thought humans were weak. I thought you were nothing, but I was wrong. You are strong, stronger than me, stronger than any. I should not have mocked you." Danny considered his words carefully. He could have been angry. He could have reminded of every insult, every sneer, every cruel joke. But that would not help anyone. "Thank you for saying that," Danny said. "It takes courage to admit when you are wrong." Nodded stiffly. "I do not expect us to be friends, but I will not disrespect you again." "That is all I ask," Danny replied. Walked away without another word. It was not exactly friendship, but it was progress. Senna continued to visit Danny regularly. She was fascinated by human culture and history. Danny told her about Earth's oceans and mountains, about the cities that covered entire continents, about the billions of humans who lived under the heavy sky. "I would like to visit Earth someday," Senna said one evening. They were sitting on the observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. Danny smiled. "You would need special training. Earth's gravity is harsh for species that did not evolve there. Most aliens can only handle it for a few hours before they have to rest." "I know," Senna said, "but I still want to try. I want to see what made humans who they are." Danny thought about that. Earth was his home, but he had not been back since leaving for the station. He missed it sometimes. The weight of the air, the pull of the ground, the simple feeling of being somewhere that was built for humans. "Maybe someday I will take you there," he said. Senna smiled. "I would like that." Life on the station continued. Weeks turned into months. More humans arrived, assigned to various jobs across the station. Engineers, scientists, doctors, pilots. They worked alongside the other species, proving themselves one task at a time. The old prejudices did not disappear overnight. Some aliens still distrusted humans. Some still feared them. But the majority were beginning to understand that humanity was not a threat. Humans were simply different, stronger in some ways, weaker in others, just like every other species in the galaxy. 1 year after Danny's famous jump, High Arbiter called a station-wide assembly. Every worker, every resident, every visitor gathered in the main plaza to hear his announcement. Stood on a raised platform, looking out at the crowd. His old eyes were bright with something that looked like hope. 1 year ago, a human named Danny Cole cracked the ceiling of our recreation hall, began. At the time, many of us were afraid. We did not understand humans. We thought they were primitive and weak. We were wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. In the past year, humans have proven themselves to be valuable members of our community. They have worked hard. They have treated others with respect. They have asked for nothing but the chance to be seen as equals. gestured toward Danny, who was standing near the front of the crowd. Danny Cole showed us something important that day. He showed us that strength is not just about muscles or power. Strength is about standing up for yourself. Strength is about refusing to be treated as less than you are. Strength is about demanding respect while also giving it. The crowd was silent, listening carefully. Today, I am announcing a new partnership between the Council and the Earth government, continued. This partnership will bring more humans to our station and open new opportunities for trade and cooperation between our species. We are no longer neighbors. We are allies. The crowd began to applaud. Danny looked around and saw aliens clapping alongside humans. Next to, even a few who had stayed on the station after his arrest. It was not perfect. There were still problems to solve, prejudices to overcome, trust to build. But it was a start. After the assembly, Kate found Danny in the crowd. She threw her arms around him in a tight hug. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Danny hugged her back. "We did, but this is just the beginning." Kate pulled back and looked at him with a smile. "Always thinking ahead. Can you not just enjoy the moment?" Danny laughed. "I suppose I can try." That evening, Danny walked through the station one last time before returning to his quarters. He passed the cargo bay where he had once been mocked. He passed the recreation hall where he had cracked the ceiling. He passed the hospital where he had recovered from his trap. So much had happened in 1 year, so much had changed. He reached the observation deck and stopped to look at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were billions of humans who had no idea what was happening on this distant station. But they would find out soon enough. As more humans came to space, as more partnerships formed, as more species learned what humanity was capable of, the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. Danny smiled and thought about what the Admiral had said during that first communication with the Council. Humans did not want war. They wanted peace, trade, cooperation, but they would not be pushed around. They would not be mocked. They would not accept being treated as inferior. Humanity had spent centuries looking up at the stars and wondering what was out there. Now the stars were looking back, and they were finally starting to understand. Danny turned away from the window and headed to his quarters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new battles to fight. But for tonight, he was content. He had come to this station as a simple cargo worker, dismissed and insulted by everyone around him. Now he was something more, a leader, a symbol, a reminder that strength comes in many forms. And it all started with a single jump. Senna caught up with him in the corridor. She fell into step beside him with a warm smile. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. Danny considered the question. "I was thinking about the ceiling." Senna laughed. "The one you cracked?" "Yes," Danny said. "Sometimes you have to break something to build something better." Senna nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds like human wisdom." "Maybe," Danny said, "or maybe it is just the truth." They walked together through the quiet corridors, two friends from different worlds finding common ground under the distant stars. Tomorrow, the work would continue. Tomorrow, there would be new challenges to face. But tonight, Danny Cole walked tall among the stars, a human from a heavy world who had proven that gravity could not crush the human spirit. It could only make it stronger.